Hi, everyone. I'm Kirk Bachman. Welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a first-time guest whose culinary journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Chef Stefani De Palma. Originally from Arcadia, California, Stephanie moved to San Diego in 2007, straight out of culinary school, to join the team at Addison Restaurant. Over the years, she climbed the ranks from chef de partie to pastry sous, and ultimately to Chef de Cuisine, working alongside Chef William Bradley to uphold and elevate Addison's tradition of excellence. That hard work paid off when the restaurant earned its coveted third Michelin star in 2022. Stephanie's talent and leadership haven't gone unnoticed. In 2024, she was named one of Inside Hook's 20 Chefs to Watch, a nomination from none other than Chef Daniel Boulud. She also took first place at the Bocuse d'Or's America's selection and went on to lead Team USA as head chef at the 2025 Bocuse d'Or finale. Today, we'll explore Stephanie's rise through one of America's most prestigious kitchens, her expertise in competing on the global culinary stage, and what it takes to represent your country in the world's most elite cooking competition. And there she is. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
being
Thank you for
here.
having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of nervous. I'm so excited about this. I absolutely love it. Let's set the stage a little bit. Thank you for finding the time. You're in Napa today. What's going on in Napa?
I live in Napa. Yeah.
Eh, Beautiful weather, gorgeous
Beautiful
weather.
weather. It has warmed up,
I,
but
what's cold in Napa? Like, did it get down to 59 or?
um, you know what? For winter, it gets cold here, and I'm born and raised in Southern California, so cold up here is cold for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're in Boulder, and boy, it could be 32 degrees in the morning and 82 degrees in the afternoon. So we're not growing wine here.
Yeah, yeah.
First of all, congratulations on all the success leading Team USA as the head chef. What a tremendous accomplishment. I'm going to try to embarrass you and get you to talk about everything today. We've had Gavin on the show, so the chat with you is an incredible honor. And do you want to just share? We're going to talk about it in depth, but I would love to just get a little insight on what's life like after the Bocuse d'Or.
Well, I mean, it was an honor in itself to represent the US. I mean, not many chefs get to do something like that, represent their country on a world stage. So the come down from that was pretty intense. And, we got back to the US. We were celebrating just how proud we were of what we did and what we accomplished. And then we kind of reset the kitchen. The team kind of trickled away and went their separate ways. And I kind of have just settled back into normalcy a little bit and taking a little breather.
Yeah, yeah. So is there, I'm just really curious and I'm going off script. I promised you I wouldn't do that, but I am going to. Is there this sort of obligation like those before you to now to give back to the next group that goes over, the next chef that goes over?
Yeah, of course. And part of a lot of my time when I was at Addison was like something that was really instilled in us is leave it better than you came. So when I was kind of closing down the kitchen, I wanted to leave next year's team a lot of resources that I had procured over my time with the team and try to set them up for success when they start next year. And I've let mentor know like I'm a phone call away if they need anything, and I'll probably remain in the Napa area, which is where the team trains out of. So I'm here for them.
That's great. That's great. That's such humility. I love that. I read a quote from you, and I quote, I'm the type of person who's focused on one goal at a time. And now my eyes are set on what we need to accomplish in Lyon. And we'll get to all of that in just a moment. But for our listeners, our students, our staff, friends of Escoffier who might not be familiar with the overview of the Bocuse d'Or, could you just run through exactly why this competition is so unbelievably revered in the world, and how do you get selected to represent the United States. It's a long process.
Oh, absolutely. So our selection took place in September of 2023, and um, chefs that are interested, they apply, they're interviewed by the Mentor Foundation, and then those chefs that are selected, they compete in a competition that mimics the actual competition. We had to do a plated theme, a platter theme, and that competition itself is held at the CIA Copia campus here in Napa.
Mhm.
Um, from there, there's a lot of chefs from the Mentor Culinary Council that sit as judges. They score, and may the best chef win, right?
Yeah.
The chef. So from there, it starts the process of the Bocuse d'Or. And this competition was created by Chef Bocuse. And each year, the theme honors him and his passion in the culinary world. Um, Year and a half later, 24 countries gather and compete against each other in Lyon, France.
So it's often described as the Olympics of cooking. And again, another curveball. How different is it, the intensity of it, than the actual culinary Olympics that take place in, typically in Germany every 4 years?
I don't know. I've never really dived into that aspect of what the Culinary Olympics entail. Um, but from what I learned in this, it's of course you're competing against other countries, but you're also just really focused on making your food the best it can be. And aside from the technical aspect of everything, it just becomes a culmination of collaboration with chef advisors that you bring on, designers, the team members themselves. And that's just a really beautiful process.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating to me. And you see things on Instagram and different television programs, Stephanie, of like the amount of collaboration that goes on. Is the vision something that comes together, or is it sort of your vision and you get a lot of help with how to execute that vision?
Um, a little bit of both. I was very much I wanted the team to collaborate on this so that they felt really involved and had a say in what we were doing. I wasn't going to lead this team like it's my way or the highway, because this was my first time diving into this arena and I don't know everything. And I was going to bring advisors onto the team that could really contribute in their, specific skills. Dave Barron, who actually was on your podcast as well, he was a
Mhm.
huge help in crafting the overall vision. We chatted for hours about, you know, what was in my brain and how to kind of bring that to life. He was a huge help in that aspect.
That's just great. That's just what people don't realize, and I don't ever want to downplay the countless hours, sleepless nights, the thinking, the rethinking, the precision, and then that performance and all of that passion has to roll into one. I was hoping you could take us all the way back to New Orleans and June of 2024 when your Comey, Bradley, right? We should talk
Hmm.
about Bradley a little bit as well, competed against all of these other teams. I think 8 different
Hmm.
countries were represented. What was it like preparing for that moment? And could you wrap how Bradley, like how do you select Bradley? How does a Comey get to be on that stage with you?
The co-me is probably the hardest position to fill because of the age. They have to be
Yeah.
under 22. And
Oh, okay. I
Bradley
didn't
and
know
I,
that. Okay. All right.
yeah, Bradley and I got
Interesting.
connected through Chef Devin Nell. So Bradley worked at Regis Ova for a stint. That's where he met Devin. And then Bradley went to England to work with a chef there. And then when I got involved with the application process, I've known Devin for years, and he's like, "Hey, I know this guy. He's the right age. You guys should meet." We had a Zoom chat. We decided to work together. We tried out together for the selection.
Wow.
He won Best Co-Me, which gave him the spot on the team. So we got to do the whole process together, which was really cool.
That's amazing. And where's he today? Do you guys still stay in touch?
We do, yeah. He's working at Press right now with Phil Tessier. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then he has some other things kind of lined up that I'll let him talk
Yeah.
about when he decides to release
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Isn't this great? Philip was on the show as well, and I just love what's happening in California right now. It's the
Yeah.
kind of the place to be, right? So,
Yeah.
I've read again two major tackles that you or challenges that you had to tackle. The platter, and this is a lot for people who haven't
Yeah.
followed along, but the platter and the theme on the plate. And there were ingredients like alligator sausage, lump crab, wild boar, oysters. Can you tell us a little bit about those dishes and like where do you start with the creativity when I mean, that's quite an ensemble, right?
This. Especially, each country you want to represent your cuisine. Well, American cuisine is a melting pot. So for
Yeah.
us, it was really kind to trying to hone in on what do we want to focus on? California ingredients. Let's speak to our region, our regionality, give it a sense of place, and then let's bring in some of these Southern flavors. So we incorporated smoked flavors into the wild boar to highlight some Southern barbecue. We transformed the alligator sausage into the ultimate American snack food, a little corn dog of sorts. And we really just wanted to showcase American cuisine as best we could. And that's really where the creativity came out was how can we keep it very regional, national, and still let the ingredients shine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And then the announcement, right? Gold for Team USA. And I get goosebumps just saying it. Can you take us to that moment, Chef? And what was running through your mind before you heard the results and after you heard the results? I mean, all that work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was the most nerve-wracking part. We had practiced over and over. We did the R&D, we did the timed runs, the time practices. We executed on the day. So standing there waiting for the results, that's the most nerve-wracking part.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
just remember, when USA was called, I heard my dad yelling on the micro or on the megaphone. I, saw them in the crowd. My mom's bawling, like just so many tears of just joy and excitement from like friends and family and mentors that were all there. I think we were all just overwhelmed with emotion, and
I,
that's something that I'll remember forever.
I just love that, and thank you for sharing that. To set the stage for anyone who follows. I mean, American football is one thing, and basketball and baseball and all that, but when you follow soccer, in Europe, I mean, it's a frenzy, right, for every single game, and so that's what I think of when I see film of the Bocuse d'Or and signs and dads on megaphones and moms crying and so I can't imagine how that must have felt, but very little time to absorb that, right? And boom, after New Orleans, you have to shift your focus. What's the time frame from then to Lyon then?
It was about six-ish months.
Unbelievable. Half a
Yeah.
year. And again, you've probably answered this question a million times, but for our listeners who are not familiar, what did training? I mean, you've just been training like crazy, and now it's like going from the semifinals to the finals, right? Type
Yeah.
of thing. And so, what did training for the finals look like? You know, and I'm gonna be silly and say it's the next level of competition, but it's equally as
Yeah.
difficult as just getting there in the first place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This next stage was very much like the first. It's okay, we start R&D. You try different techniques with proteins, with vegetables, with sauces. Um, but then also conversations with our designers started and really trying to get, again, we talk about the vision is how do we transform the vision into the end platter result? So a lot of those conversations starting with our designers and like special tooling we were going to need. Um, we did a lot of R&D on vegetable garnishes because in previous years, there's always been vegetable garnishes on the platter. We had two garnishes that we were like 90% there. We had chefs come in for tastings and like get feedback on them. Lo and behold, 2 months later, we find out the theme and there's no vegetable garnish. It's a warm fruit garnish that we have to do. So we're like, okay, great. Um, so that part, it does feel a little, there's two sides of it. We feel like we wasted time on working on things that never made it. But then there's also the other side of the coin that we got to get just in a rhythm of timing and repetition and skills that we use some things throughout other aspects of the plate and the platter, but those actual two garnishes never made it.
Well, that clarity is really important. I'm going to use the analogy of the NBA finals, right? So you move from the regional to the semifinals to the finals, and it's basically the same, right? The same team, put the ball in the basket type of thing. I guess I didn't realize, again, silly me, that you're almost starting from scratch
Yeah,
again 6 months
yeah,
out. It's not
for
just a
sure.
continuum. Wow, wow.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And at
then,
that point too, we were also bringing in more chef advisors. So I had Chef Eric Anderson come in, and he was like protein master. I had, like we had talked about with Dave Barron, he came in for the concept. Brian Lockwood was has a lot of like intricate fruit and vegetable techniques. And then once we found out the theme and the requirements, we got in contact with Evan Funke for a pasta
oh, no
masterclass.
way. No
Yeah.
way. Wow. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Has
Yeah.
that's built over the years, right?
Oh,
You
for
know,
sure.
you, you
Yeah.
know, 30 years ago I mean, the Bocuse d'Or's been 30 years or so that they've
Yeah.
been doing it. Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine that kind of collaboration, way back then.
Hmm.
So let's talk about the atmosphere. I wish we had pictures right now. So you're in Lyon, you walk into this space, there's over 20 other countries, this live audience. There's, judges who are from Michelin restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Um, can you paint that picture better than I can?
And of course, you feel a sense of intimidation, but a lot of
Yeah.
these other teams we had met previously, we attended the European qualification. So we had met the other teams. And at this point, I really tried to not let the nerves have space in my brain. I didn't want to like overwhelm myself with that. We practiced how we were going to perform. We trained, we were calm and collected, and we just wanted to focus on executing what we had practiced doing. And I will say I was a little starstruck by Chef Claire Smith. She's someone I looked up to for a long time, but she was incredibly nice and encouraging. So
Wow. Wow. The names just keep coming. It's just, my goodness. Here, this question I've been wanting to ask, because this resonates so much with, students of the craft or hopeful practitioners of the craft, if you will. You've mentioned how impressed you were by the workmanship and professionalism of the other teams. Can you speak about that a little bit? That's really, really important.
yeah, a competition like this is going to bring out the best in people. We've all been training for this for at least a year, if not more. And it takes a tremendous amount of dedication and discipline that's so necessary to compete at this level. And if you don't have these things already instilled in you, you're not going to be doing this competition. So seeing other chefs that were on this level and put so much time and effort in, it was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Are those relationships that continue after
Yeah,
the
I've kept in
competition?
contact with some of them. Yeah.
Isn't that great? I just love that. So, and again, tough question. Reflecting back on the whole process, the different levels, and then what you're giving back as a mentor going forward, from that very first day of training to the competition floor to the announcements and all. What are you most proud of, Chef?
I'm most proud of the team we built and how we represented our country with respect, humility, and professionalism. And at the end of the day, we were so proud of what we accomplished and we had fun throughout the whole process. We enjoyed it.
I love it. I knew the humility was going to continue there, deflecting to the team. I absolutely love it. Every team needs a leader, though. But congratulations.
Well, and people
Um,
have asked, are you going to do it again? And I, I think I've made peace with the fact that I had such a cool team. We were strangers at the beginning of it, and we just worked together so well that I don't think I would get that same experience.
the
They
bar
were
set
such,
high, right?
the bar
Yeah,
was set
yeah,
very high.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I get that. And I guess one of the most beautiful, gratifying things that could happen next is you imparting that wisdom on the next team, right?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. If we could, let's rewind the clock back a little bit. You've competed at the highest level. You've led a Michelin kitchen. Um, because a lot of students are going to be fascinated by your story. They're going to want to sign up. We have to rein them in a little bit, right? And our students won't want to know how you got there, right? Your story, Stephanie, is not about shortcuts. It's about commitment. You said it. It's commitment. It's learning and growing over time. And some of the most demanding is a tough word, but demanding, high expectation, probably a better way to say it, restaurant environments in the country, in the world.
Hmm.
I'm curious if we can go all the way back to what first sparked your interest in food. Was there a moment or a meal? The name of the show is The Ultimate Dish. So, we're going to corner you towards the end about what is the ultimate dish. But, I'd love to know about that moment when you knew, wow, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I grew up in a family that loved to cook and loved to eat good food. And going into this career wasn't actually my first choice, but in high school, I was a teacher's assistant for like the home ec class. And
Oh,
the
okay.
teacher, she brought in a pastry chef from the local culinary school to give a chocolate demonstration. And I watched, and this woman was so passionate about her craft and so inspiring. And I went home that night and I talked to my mom about it. And I said, what do you think about, doing that? And I didn't get into the two colleges I wanted to. So I was a little bummed and I needed a plan B.
Yeah.
So that started the conversation. And my mom and I went to the orientation that the culinary school had held, and we thought about it and said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And really, with culinary school, it's you're going to get out of it what you put in, and it's a short program. It's 18 months, so I did the 18 months, and here we are.
It's intense. I love this conversation, right? We talked a little bit before we started recording, and I was involved with Le Cordon Bleu when you were involved with Le Cordon Bleu, and you went to a really popular big school with unbelievable talent. Um, and in your comment about you'll get out of it what you put into it, it's very, very, very insightful for anyone who's thinking about going to culinary school. But what happens next is really, really impressive, right? You're at this time you're 19, you move to San Diego, you join Addison. I mean, it's probably Southern California's only three Michelin star restaurant at that time. Maybe, yeah, I think. Um,
Well, it didn't have the recognition then. It was a new restaurant. It had only been open about a year.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's still a serious leap, right? It's that
Yes.
that's a lot for a 19. It's a lot for anyone. And so, what gave you the confidence? This is what students need to know. Where did the confidence come from? I love, by the way, if I could say another sidebar, I'm so off script today, Stephanie. I apologize,
No,
but
you're keeping pretty on track.
am I
I'm
doing
following
okay?
along.
Okay, yeah, I'm all over the place. Noel's going to really give it to me at the end of this, but I love how you have, from the beginning of our chat, you've sort of pulled your family into it. Your dad's got the megaphone, and you collaborated and consulted with your mom, about going to culinary school. I just want to point out that is, I love when young people have a network like that. I don't care who it is, a friend, a sister, a brother, a mom, a dad, grandfather. I grew up like that. I needed that crutch in many, many, many ways. I felt like everything I did was, for and part of, the family. So bravo for that. I'm curious, what gave you the confidence? Was it family? Was it, hey, were you pretty good? I mean, it's like I could do this. Um,
To be quite honest, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was new to
okay.
San Diego. So at the end of my culinary school, I did an internship in Italy for three
Okay.
months. And while I was there, my dad got transferred from Arcadia to San Diego for work. And so when I moved home, home was now San Diego. Like,
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So I I got home, I think in like November. I took December off, just, spend the holidays, whatever, get settled into my new home. And my parents said, okay, January comes around. So you're either gonna go to school and get your, bachelor's degree, or you're gonna work full time. I said, okay. So I started applying to some places, and Addison was on a property of the Grand Del Mar Resort, which had been at a culinary fair at the school. So I had recognized it, and I had met with someone from HR there. So I'm like, okay, this is a familiar face. So I applied there. I applied to a couple other places. Addison was the first place I interviewed. And on the day of my interview, they posted an opening for a pastry position, which I think is where my career will ultimately go, is pastry. So when I went for my interview, I said, I want that job, take a chance. And they did. And what I came to learn is that pastry positions are quite hard to fill. So they probably snatched me up knowing that this is a pastry person. This is something that we don't get often. So it was like I said, Addison was a fairly new restaurant. It had only been open about a year before I started working there, but
Well, you took a
worked
chance
out.
and they took a chance, right? And
Exactly.
look how
Yeah.
that worked out, right?
Hmm.
And over the years, this is another important aspect of your career that students need to pay attention to. You've held nearly every position there is in the kitchen, and eventually you became, the chef de cuisine. How do you like? Where's the patience come from? I'm sure there was a day when you woke up and you're like, I'm really good. What's next for me, right? And but you follow the decorum, right? The professionalism
Yeah.
of the kitchen. Um, what was that progression like for you? Were you anxious? Were you patient? Were you all of the above? None of the above?
I was patient yet ambitious. I put my time in on pastry, and then, I was also very observant of the kitchen, and I tried to involve myself when I had time. And when I saw that there were other team members leaving or moving around, shuffling ways, I had a conversation with the leadership team and told them I'd be interested in moving to savory. I thought about it. They're like, okay, that's different, but let's give it a shot. And again, I remember Chef Williams saying, "You start this station like it's your first day in the kitchen and absorb everything like a sponge." And that's what I did throughout the whole time I was there. It was you're building on what you've learned throughout that kitchen, but also soaking in as much information and technique as possible.
Addison was awarded, I believe, their third star while you were there,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, this is a lot for one person's career, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this is really informative, our chat today too, because we're talking about the Bocuse d'Or, we're talking about Michelin. I mean, this is a level for those who aren't familiar that is about as high as we can go, right? Um, I imagine that was a very, very, very powerful moment for everyone, from the vendors to the guests to the team at Addison, to William and so on and so forth. What did that feel like for you? How long had you been there when that all happened?
14 years. Um, I had been there 14 years. And so when Michelin announced that they were going to do a California guide, that was in 2019, the restaurant really shifted the dynamic. It was chef's goal was 3 stars, and I was his right hand. And okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do everything we can to transform this restaurant into a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And we got the
Wow.
one. We got the two. And then I was at a point where I was ready to part ways with the restaurant, but I gave Chef a year notice. I knew my position was going to be very hard to fill, and I wanted to make sure it gave us plenty of time to prepare who was taking my role. So I gave him a year notice and I said, I have two goals for the year, build the team and we get the third star. And we did both. And I remember at that awards ceremony, I was with Chef William, Sean McGinnis, our maitre d', chef's wife, Akira, and we're also surrounded by friends and mentors and other chefs that we've known for years. And watching him accept that award I was just incredibly proud of him. This is someone I had known for a huge chunk of my adult life. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and I know how much it took for us to get there. And having everyone around us that we've known for years be just as excited as we were, it was a really, really cool moment.
That's the closest I've come. Noel will confirm this to crying on this show over the last 5 years. No, I get it. And another lesson, I don't want to gloss over this, the fact that you had the respect for the team, for the establishment, for the owner, his family, to give a year notice. That I'm not suggesting here, students, that you have to always give a year notice, but please, write that one down. Write that one down. What did those years, chef, at Addison teach you about excellence? Tough word, big word, about leadership, and maybe even your identity, perhaps, as a chef?
Yeah, I will always aim to be a chef that leads with respect, hard work, and collaboration. And, food aside, chef taught me a ton about flavors and building your palate and refinement. But I will always try to lead by example and stay humble.
Yeah, well said. Well said. You've accomplished so much already in your life, and so we're going to talk a little bit about the wisdom that you're giving back here, running a world-class kitchen to competing on the highest global stage that there is. And um, I always like to chat with folks that we chat with about looking forward, right? And outward to the generation that's coming up, right behind you. After this beautiful chapter with the Bocuse, what and again, I don't, is there a book coming? What are we thinking about next? Are you dreaming up the next stage of your life and that sort of thing?
I mean, I've had two back-to-back very intense chapters, pushing for third Michelin star and then going into the Bocuse store. So at this point, I'm taking a little breather.
You should, you should.
Yeah, I have a general idea of what I'll eventually do, but really I'm just kind of enjoying life and a little downtime and having a balance and being with family and friends that I've not neglected, but I haven't had much time with. So I'm really
Yeah.
just having that healthy balance.
I'm going off script again. It's funny how some of these conversations always go with chefs in particular. Um, we always end up talking about music a little bit, or we talk about motorcycles, or both. Are either of those in your life? Are you a music fan? Do you ride a
I
motorcycle?
I don't ride a motorcycle. I have test driven an electric motorcycle once.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I went about
That
5 miles an
counts.
hour,
That counts.
but it's not something I do on the regular. Music, yes. Yoga, walking my dog. She's old now, so she doesn't walk too far, but she makes it.
You mentioned yoga, and I think so. You mentioned Lachlan of Frasca here in Boulder earlier, and his partner Bobby Stuckey here. Um, they do a lovely job, and they're amazing. They hire our students, and they're incredible people, and they sit on our board. But it's funny the the day or maybe the week that they got their first star, I was in there talking to the one of the general managers, and we got down this path of talking about, how beautiful it is to work in Boulder, and that they're very health centric, and what they have to share with chefs around the world who, may work in New York City or Philly or Chicago or really, really busy places where it's hard to find a minute for yourself to practice yoga. Or, Bobby runs every day, and he runs like a 10K every day. It's really, really important to them. Um, and again, I'm off script, but how important is taking care of yourself and exercise and eating right and that sort of thing to be sustainable for the long term in this business.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, even during training for the Bocuse d'Or, like I didn't drink alcohol the whole time I was training. I needed to keep my body healthy. I didn't get sick at all. It was really important for me to keep my physical body as healthy as I could so that mentally I could be, you know, ready for every day. Because by the time December came, we were doing a timed run every other day. And that turns into, I mean, your timed run is 5.5 hours, but then you have 2 hours of setup, an hour of breakdown, and doing that every other day, very wearing on the body. So keeping ourselves as healthy as possible, I mean, that's huge. And the older you get, the harder it gets.
Yeah, yeah, and coming back coming back to all the preparation, um, and that's the pastry chef in you, right? You're linear, you're very organized. What people don't think about is you just said 5.5 hours a day of a timed run. There's so much that goes into that. You have to have the equipment ready to go. The
Hmm.
ingredients have to be, you know, perfect and ready to
Hmm.
go. And is that everything? Is that like you start your mise then, or
You're allowed to have pretty much everything scaled, so measured out. So we would
oh,
have like
okay.
kits of, okay, this is everything for this chicken mousse, minus the protein, right? Because you have to prep that on site. So you would have everything scaled and measured and ready. Um, so that takes a huge amount of time. One of our chef de parties, Alexis, that was her job. She was scaling everything. And then one of our other chef de parties, Carson, he was setting up all the equipment. And then you have our sous chef for the team, Jacob. He was kind of helping with R&D. So if something went wrong during the run, this didn't turn out right, he'd turn around and make it on the side to see what happens, like troubleshoot, see what happened. So a lot of these, there's a huge amount that goes on behind the scenes to actually get to the point of execution.
That's a huge commitment from a lot of people. And my mind's just going 100 miles an hour now. So for that period of time leading up to the competition, I mean, you can't even take like a break. I mean, because if you decided, hey, I'm going to slip over to Hawaii for 10 days, that you lose momentum, right?
Yeah, we took a break after New Orleans to kind of reset. And then also to bring the rest of our team members on. So um, Jacob and then our competition manager Amanda, they started after New Orleans. So bringing them on, Jacob was helping with R&D. Amanda was helping with a lot of the coordination. You, she's more, she's 10 times more organized than I am, which was such a blessing for me. So bringing those people on for Lyon was so necessary. And that gave us time to find those right people in that little reset period.
I um I told my wife this morning. She knows that I usually have an interview every single week, and so she was asking about it today, and she was trained as a chef as well, and she does some private chefing. She wanted me to ask if different food intolerances or gluten-free thoughtfulness or any of those hot topics of today find their way into competition at that level these days. Sorry, that wasn't
definitely.
on the script either.
No, it's okay. So Matt Peters, when he won gold in 2017, their theme on plate was a vegan dish.
I remember
So
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For us, the fruit garnish had to not have any dairy in it. Um, I think that was kind of the only restriction because team presidents who end up being the judges, they have to be able to eat everything. So, and I'm actually vegetarian. I would taste everything. I wouldn't consume it, but
Sure, sure.
my personal preference doesn't get in the way of my training and the R&D and the execution. But as a judge, you have to be able to eat everything. So
Yeah. That's
I
a
think
that's
that, yeah, I think the vegan dish for Matt's year was the biggest one if I remember right.
that's a great response. That I love that. Um, if you had to, and this is such a tough question, it's kind of a cliche question, but for those who are new to the industry and with Escoffier being able, we went online, around 2016, 2017. So it provided a lot of opportunity to folks who wouldn't be able to travel across the country to a ground campus or, move away from their families for extended periods of time. And so our students range from, 19 to 50. Is there any advice knowing what you've been through? Because you've been through a lot. You've put yourself through a lot. If you had to give, if I had 600 instruct or students in front of you on a Zoom right now, is there a podium of advice that you would give to them?
I would tell them, I mean, I think it's natural to feel intimidated when you're trying something new. I still do, but treat a new kitchen not as a challenge, but an opportunity. And you'll only know how it's going to end if you try, and you'll only get out of it what you put in.
How do you then taking that a step further, Stephanie, to the idea of mindset? Um, what should a student or a new practitioner to the craft focus on? And the word mastering is tough, right? Let's just say competency. What should a student going into the industry really focus on first from a competency, purely skills? What should they focus on first?
I think the most important thing for anyone is a positive attitude because you can't teach that. So if you go in there with a
Mm.
positive attitude, you can learn everything else. And for talking skills, master the basics first. Keep your knife sharp, work on your precision. Speed and technique is going to come over time. And don't be afraid to ask for help because the better you are, the better your team's going to be.
You know what I love about that answer is again, you're prepared. You you have a narrative that you have found your voice in this business, and that's so important. Um, I know that you have some very much deserved time, to kind of pause right now, but I'm curious, having found success on such a oh, there's the
She
pup.
is.
Yeah.
I heard her toenails clicking.
So you've found success at a very high level. So I'm just curious, what does success look like next? And have you raised the bar? Has the definition of success really changed for you?
I think success is going to look different to everyone, but for me, it's can you look back on what you accomplished and be proud of how you got there? Did you do it with respect and professionalism and humility? Did you value others and did you enjoy the process?
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love it. We got to our limit very quickly there, even with me going off script. But before I let you go, the name of the show is The Ultimate Dish, and I'm on the edge of my seat for this answer. But in your mind, in your travels, in your competitions, in your experience, chef, what is the ultimate dish?
I'm going to give a little shout out to one of my favorite restaurants in San Diego, Tribute Pizza. And my ultimate dish is vanilla bean soft serve ice cream with olive oil and sea salt.
I was not totally not expecting that one. Absolutely, I can taste it. I love
Yeah,
it. I love it.
I could eat it every day.
Oh, we're gonna have to stick that. Yeah. And Noelle just said my favorite pizza place. She's in San Diego. Oh my gosh. That's absolutely fabulous. Maybe we'll do a hashtag for them. That would be nice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so much fun, Stephanie. Chef, thank you. Much continued success. If you're ever interested, the whole time I'm like taking notes here. If you ever want to get in front of a bunch of students in a live sort of webinar format, man, I would love to arrange that for you. I think that would be a
I'd be
lot of
happy to. Yeah.
lot of fun. Yeah. Congratulations. You're an amazing professional and please stay in touch. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast to find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. And if you can, please leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to support our show. This helps us reach more aspiring individuals ready to take the next step toward their dream careers. Thanks for listening.